we just saw a new pope elected. And a lot of people are extremely worried, and in my opinion, rightfully so. There may be a little bit of hope. But the truth about the pope has come out. And in this show, we are going to show you every single bit of it because most people aren't willing to cover it, whether it's from a biased standpoint or because they are part of it. But we here on this show are going to give you every single bit of detail without holding back. We're going to be honest about it. And we're going to go through what he has done in the past, why people are so worried right now about the future of the Catholic Church from the standpoint of the Pope.
Well, it's Pope Leo XIV, otherwise known as Robert Prevost. He's a Peruvian dual citizen, U.S. Peruvian citizen. Got his citizenship in Peru about 10 years ago. But Matt, I'm going to have a different perspective on this because we have to look back to the biblical part, and I want to give people a little bit of hope in this. Yeah, he's made some pretty significant mistakes, and he's been very critical of President Trump and J.D. Vance, and stood up for some things that I think are rather progressive. But the other side of this is that I do think that he is a pro-life pope. And if you look at the Saul to Paul conversion, even if he was a bad guy or doing bad things, there's an opportunity that when you step into that role, that maybe you'll do some greater good, have some greater good for the 1.4 to 1.6 billion Catholics around the world. So, but then we're going to talk about some other stuff. But this is probably the most pressing today on Untamed, and I'm out of the office today, but we got a lot to go over today.
Take two. Cut.
Take two.
I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Right, follow me with this.
But they've been using their power to obstruct and stop justice from taking place.
You want to pray us out?
I do.
We'll pray for Tina. And let's have conversations about what truth is.
The smoke is up. We now know for a fact who the Pope is, someone who came out of nowhere, was less than 1% on the betting odds, which is a little bit weird. You're not supposed to bet religious stuff, but whatever. At least we can kind of get some gauge from that. Even though this time, not only was it wrong, it was extremely wrong to the point that almost no one predicted this. And now the Pope that we have coming in is someone who in the past has not only advocated for open borders, he spent most of his life in other countries, not the United States, even though he is from Chicago, both of his parents from Peru, how he has the dual citizenship. So this is someone who could lead the Catholic Church, if people are willing to follow who are part of the Catholic Church, in a direction of open borders, mass migration. He also seems to have some pro-gay marriage stances. And my opinion on it is the government, it's not the government's job necessarily to tell people who you're allowed to be with, but it is the job of the church and religious leaders to try to guide people in the direction of family values and traditional marriage. That's what the church is supposed to do. And if he's not willing to do that, then it's really not only disappointing, but it's going to turn a lot of people away from Christianity. And Christianity, especially Catholicism, but Christianity is correct. It is the answer. It is the path towards God. And so we want someone in that position, and now we're not going to have it probably for 20 plus years, who's going to be able to stand up for our values. And that's why I'm disappointed. That's why I tweeted out, we're screwed, because this is a very pivotal point, and it seems like we may be going in the wrong direction. Push back on me, Joe.
I mean, you went to a Catholic school, right?
I did, and I've always loved the beauty of Catholicism. I've certainly considered becoming closer to it, and I've gone to Mass many times throughout my life, as well as being raised Presbyterian, going to the Church of Christ, which was my church growing up. So I've always loved Catholicism, but at the same time, it seems like so many people who are part of that group are against a lot of the values that we support. And it's tough to reckon with that, because it would be nice for all of the Christianity to come together and for us to be able to move forward and make our society closer to God rather than further from it. It seems like common sense. That's what we should be doing, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. One of my biggest problems with all churches, not just the Catholic Church, but any church, is the fact that we let the mores of society be dictated by society itself, and then just accept that where it is. And that's antithetical to faith or any religion. The Bible is supposed to be a guiding light over how we should run our societies and how we should run our communities. And what's happened, including with Pope Leo XIV, Robert Prevost, is that they've let the mores of society dictate what it is that we will allow to happen. And if you go back in history, the Pope is supposed to be a leader, not just he's a world leader. He's supposed to be saying that, hey, look, this is right and this is wrong. And instead, he's capitulated to some of the standards of our society that have eroded to a place where morals don't seem to matter. So on that part, I think I pray that the Pope does a better job. But at the other side of this, Matt, is that the problem with us as people is that we get so far behind. I mean, if you just look at it, we're shaped by our experiences, right? And so I look at the Pope, and I was disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I wanted Sirah. There's a bunch of people that I wanted ahead of him. Matter of fact, he wasn't even someone, based on some of the things that he let happen with letting a pedophile priest live close to a Catholic school and some of the other things that have happened, that he didn't stand up when he had the opportunity to. Those things disappoint me, because then I look at it and go, well, he's done some really bad things. So how did this guy that's so imperfect become the Pope? But then I just look at the fact that we spend a lot of time judging people, and I want to give him an opportunity as well. I want to give him an opportunity to prove that maybe he can do better by the people globally, and not just Catholics, but all people of faith.
I think he does. And by the way, I'm tweeting about this right now because I think it's important to cover it. He did. He literally put someone who was accused of pedophilia, who was believed to be taking advantage of young boys, in a position to be near a Catholic school. To do that in any capacity, to even allow that to have any sort of green light in any capacity, is, in my opinion, extremely awful. And it makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit. And I'm hoping, I know we have a clip about this and we're going to talk in more depth about it, but I'm hoping this can't be true. This can't be the guy who is pushing for open borders, who is okay with gay marriage from a religious standpoint and thinks there's nothing wrong with it. Theoretically, hopefully, we're going to be surprised and he's going to have a little bit more of a moral guidance than we're expecting. We can give him a chance. We certainly will. But based on what I'm seeing, I'm not hopeful at all. If we have, Apollo, do we have the clip that we can play? I believe it's a clip, right? That shows the news story where he was allowing someone near a Catholic church who was part of the enclave there in Peru, who has pedophilic interests, allegedly. Can we play that clip? Okay, Apollo's pointing it up right now. But that's when you go through and see the list of things, it seems like over and over again, we're getting a big red X next to his name. And it disheartens me. It makes me want to push further away from something that's so beautiful, something that deserves to have the utmost respect, which is Catholicism. And this is a bad day. And it's not like, oh, it's going to be soon, we have another chance. This is for the next decades, right? This is a lifetime for some people, the rest of their lives.
Well, I mean, let's go back in history and look at some controversial picks. You've had popes that have had concubines. You've had popes that, I mean, let's look at Pope Pius the 12th, who was the Pope for, I think, nearly 20 years. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but it, came in during World War II. And you could argue that he was a sympathist of the Nazi regime. That he allowed for millions of people, not just Jews, but millions of other people that were not Jewish, to die in concentration camps, and that he turned his back to protect the power of the church. So we've had some imperfect popes before. I think right now, though, one of my issues is that we need somebody strong in their faith. We need somebody that could stand up for God, stand up for the principles of goodness, ethics, morals, and not have such a squishy view on so many things that are happening, especially in light of what we're hearing about now. And at the same time, I'm still hopeful, and I look at what the Pope is doing, and maybe that there was, some missteps and bad decisions made. And then, but I also asked myself, Matt, this is why I'm so torn. I asked myself, would I be tolerant at all of anyone that would give a free pass to a pedophile? And the answer is no, wouldn't. And so am I willing to just lay that down and say, oh, now I'm going to give the Pope a free pass? I think I need to dig in more, and because he wasn't on the radar. But what's more disturbing about this is that in the first vote, he was elected Pope. In the first vote.
That is crazy. It wasn't even, and that's not normal, by the way. Normally, it takes a significantly longer amount of time. People aren't expecting for it to be this quick. And so for there to be that much overwhelming support shows you one thing. Pope Francis has picked most of the current enclave. Once you get one far left person inside an organization like that, where he's then in charge of picking the other people, then from now on, it is infested and it is never going to be able to go away, because now who do you think he's going to pick? Extremely liberal, far left people. And so then they're going to pick the next pope. And basically, it is now impossible, once it has gotten to this point, to go to a point where it's conservative and where it pushes values that align with us. And so that sucks. And it's not consistent with the Catholic Church either. It's not consistent with what people who are Catholic believe. And that's what's scary about it, because there is no long-term hope. There is no short-term hope that we can get a strong Catholic Church that is aligned with us.
But look at what the Catholic Church has done in trafficking children. Not the Catholic Church, excuse me. Let me rephrase that. There's Catholic charities that have been out there that have done things to instigate mass migration from South and Central America into the United States, having open borders, doing things that have resulted in the trafficking of women and children from the most vulnerable areas in those regions. So, there's the part that feels good and the part that does good. And, you can look at what the Catholic Church is doing, and they're not connecting. Like what they think feels good is not actually doing good. And, again, we're gonna give the Pope a chance. Matt, I think I've talked to you a little bit about this. I've been looking at the Catholic Church for well over a year. So I've gone to Catholic Mass. I've read all sorts of books. I've been going through quite a few things that, in my view, just allow me to explore my faith more deeply in how I can organize that around, my belief system around a church. And I've had people that have come out when I've talked about this on the air and said, Joe, you need to stay as far away from the Catholic Church as possible. And I think that I find myself trying to figure out a little bit whether or not this is the right path for me. But, and I can't say that it is or isn't right now. I just know that I'm really trying to find a way to reconcile that. Sorry, there's something that's on the thing. I hope that's not making it to the deal.
I don't think it is, but let's put up the tweets. Let's put up the tweets that he has made in the past. And I think this and some of the retweets as well. So look, these are the retweets he's made. And if you look through these, you can see, first one says, I join my voice and prayers for those brother bishops that might work hard to end racism in our hearts and in society. May God give comfort to the family of George Floyd in this time of anguish. That right there, I mean, a lot of people support George Floyd. Maybe we're not going to give him too hard of a time about that, but it gets way worse. Saying Trump's bad hombres line fuels racism and nativism. Cali bishops send primitive blast on DCA repeal. Another one, I stand with the dreamers and all people who are working towards immigration system that is fair, just, and moral. So he's literally all for illegal immigration. That is terrifying. As Trump and Buchel use the Oval Office, Bukele used the Oval Office, that's the El Salvador president, feds elicit deportation of a U.S. resident, once an undocumented El Salvadorian himself. Now DC Elva asks, do you need to see the suffering? Is your conscience not disturbed? And another one, to my colleagues, your cowardice to act cannot be whitewashed by thoughts and prayers. None of this ends until we get someone and we do something to stop it. And then it gets worse, though. Then there's also two tweets that he's made directly. These are from Robert Prevost himself. So if we want to pull up those tweets, the first one, and it's underneath on that tweet thread, there's one that says, J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others. And this one, which is probably the worst of all, why Donald Trump's anti-immigration rhetoric is so problematic. So there he is within about 8 tweets there, some of them that he retweeted, some of them that he posted himself. You can get a clear synopsis of who he is, who Robert Provest is, and what he's going to use his power for. And why this is especially scary is because he speaks English perfectly. He's able to relate to Americans. And so if we have someone with perfect English who's respected because of his position, that is trying to convince millions of Americans that it is good for us to let in millions of immigrants, which makes no sense at all because we can't have 7 billion people coming here, 7 billion and 500 million people. That doesn't work. You can't just do that, and then we won't be able to help this country. So not only is he wrong from the standpoint of helping others, Jesus wouldn't want the country that is most responsible for helping people to be turned into a country that no longer can do that. It doesn't make any sense. And yet there he is over and over and over again, pushing ideals in a way that is going to unfortunately resonate with some Americans who are on the fence about what they want to support. That's what's terrifying.
Well, there's no question that he's not an example of what we want things to be. He's an example of what things are today. And his, I was just on RT News giving an interview talking directly about this, Matt. And I said, look, I want to give, the ink's not even dry yet. Basically, I think the entire world is in shock over this pick. And you see people like Charlie Kirk that stand up for him. So that's like an indication to me that it's probably not a good pick.
Yeah.
but I do want to, I am going to take a very patient approach for this because the first instinct that I had when it came out was, are you freaking kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? But think about it this way. President Trump and most of our society that is saying, look, we're going to reject these radical ideologies. And so in the middle of all this, Pope Francis dies, new Pope emerges, and now all of a sudden we're having a conversation on, is he going to lead people more to that radical side where it stands against what President Trump's trying to do? A vast majority of the Catholic faith are moving away from this leftist ideology, and it's leaving almost like a split of the church, which is what happened, if we go back centuries, what happened to the Catholic Church almost 400 years ago. So, I mean, I don't know, man. If it looks like a political decision to me, it looks like something that there's been bad popes in the past. My problem with this papal pick is that I think that there's no more consequential of a time in history than there is right now. And so this pick, because of his stances, lead me to believe that we're going to be in a really bad place and some really good cardinals, just like leaders get pushed out by fraudulent election systems. Cardinals that are going to stand up and say, listen, you got to be unequivocally pro-life. You got to be unequivocally against mass migration just based on the consequences to the people in that area. And you got to be against the things that go against just basic morals and ethics, and not let the morals of society get decided by, P. Diddy and Hollywood. That's actually decided by what's right and what's biblical and what's written, the words of God that are written, not by the fact that, well, we just don't want to do that anymore, and we think that little boys should cut off their genitals, right? So it's again, it's antithetical to what we believe. And then the other part about what he's done to cover up, crimes that were committed by people in positions of power and authority and trust inside the Catholic Church is even more disturbing.
Yeah, because I mean, it is common for people at 70 years old to just decide, and he's 69, by the way, to just decide, okay, I'm going to change all my beliefs overnight. I'm making a little bit of a joke there because that's the other thing here. At his age, and I'd never want, even if I strongly disagree with someone, I'm not hoping that he does die and then someone else is able to come in. First of all, the person who comes in would be just as liberal. Second of all, hoping for a pope to die is obviously a very bad thing to do. I would never want that to happen. I want to be very clear about that. But in this case, it is true that now we're likely going to have more than a decade, at the very least, of this individual who is picking the most far left people possible. I don't think he's going to change his beliefs. I don't know what there is to have hope about. I mean, okay, he's anti-abortion. That's the most basic level of humanity. I mean, that's the litmus test for if you're evil or not, is if you're okay with literally killing babies. And so that's not even something that I consider to be at a high level of importance. He is also a registered Republican, supposedly, whatever that means. But of course, if you're a registered Republican and you push all of the values that go directly against conservative family, then what are you actually? And so that's why I don't know. I see your point, Joe. I understand that we want to try to be hopeful, and this is an important figure. But it's just so hard for me to be that when we're looking at all of these things. It's a long list, and at the very top of the list is the pedophile part of it, where he was even somewhat remotely forgiving and nice to someone who could be in a position to harm more children. That's at the very top for me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's the part that I have the most problem with myself. Sorry, I have a kitty cat that jumped on my lap. I'm out of town, but I don't know. I'm still in shock, Matt. I think many people were in shock. But if he turns out to be someone that can set aside his propensity not to have courage and to hold people accountable for doing bad things, then great. If he doesn't, then I think we have to find a way to fight against it, just like we fight against all the other evil that we have inside the Republican Party. My problem is that I think this is a very purposeful act that has been infiltrated. I think it's not the first time that the Catholic Church has been infiltrated, and it's not the first time that we've had to deal with deviancy at every level of government. That's why you had the fall of Rome. But keep in mind, this is what they want to do when they want to destroy society, and they've been trying to degrade and destroy and to push off. That's why all the judges are making decisions that are counterintuitive to the laws that we have in our country, and that they're openly allowing for the persecution of Americans like they did on January 6th. Most of what we're dealing with now is directly related to this evil that has consumed our communities. And so I think God has a plan. I think we're gonna have to pray this thing out, but I want to be hopeful because we've been fighting for the last 5 years. And by the way, many people have been fighting for 10 or 15 years. I'm just tired of fighting. So frankly, I just want either the second coming or for this guy to actually do what he's supposed to do as the Pope and lead us in a direction that leads to less moral decay than what we're dealing with now, and to be more courageous. And that's ultimately what I think we all have to. He is a registered Republican. But that doesn't mean anything to me, because half the Republican Party I could basically throw into a trash can based on some of their views.
It almost adds insult to injury, and that is one thing that is a common thread that I've seen amongst what people are thinking could happen, is that we could see the second coming of Christ. There are multiple prophecies, I guess you could say, maybe that's a strong word to use in this scenario, in this case, but there are multiple things that have signaled, at the very least, that this could be the last pope. If you look at the empty picture frame, if you look at some of the theology, some of the story behind why that is, there are multiple things in historic texts that suggest this could be the last pope. And it would make sense if he ushers in an era, at least through the Catholic Church, of things that go directly against God. And that's terrifying, because here we are as humans without the ability to control it. But let's take a look. Let's take a look at what Trump decided to say about this. So if you are looking for hope, maybe we can give you a little bit here. And Trump is being diplomatic. If we want to throw up the tweet right now, Paulo, he's being diplomatic. He always is, especially these days. Trump is trying his best, and he obviously wants to have a good relationship with him. He's hoping maybe he can try to convince him not to continue attacking him and attacking the values we support. But here's what Trump said. Congratulations to Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who was just named Pope. It is such an honor to realize that he is the first American Pope. American in quotes, anchor baby. I'm sorry to be disrespectful, but that's true. What excitement and a great honor to find out for our country. I look forward to meeting Pope Leo XIV. It will be a very meaningful moment. So Trump obviously is going to go meet him. And I see this kind of similar actually to Trump with Mark Carney, the new Prime Minister of Canada, being very cordial, being very nice. Look forward to meeting you. I watched your ceremony. Extremely different ideology. There's going to be conflict that arises, a dark feeling around Mark Craner. Here we have another dark feeling. We have a dark feeling around the Catholic Church today for anyone who wants good values to prevail. Some people, especially if you are Catholic and you're watching right now, it doesn't mean you have to go away from the Catholic Church or you can't be Catholic, but it does mean that at the top level, the leadership of the Catholic Church is something we have to stray from. We can't look at that as a place to get moral guidance from. And that's unfortunate because it would be nice to be able to, but that's where we sit right now.
All right. So can I go through something with you that I think is important?
Absolutely.
So he renamed himself Pope Leo the 14th. And here's what people don't understand. And maybe you look at history, and I get a little bit anxious when I look at the history of the Pope Leos. The longest surviving pope that was the head of the Catholic Church in history was Pope Leo the Ninth, or Pope Leo the Eighth, right? And he served from I think it was late 1800s to the early part of 1900s, but he was noted as being the Pope of the people. And I was reading a book about this just recently. He was noted as being the Pope of the people, and that long before it was like socially acceptable for the popes to intermingle within society, he intermingled in society. But he was pro-capitalism, he was against socialism, and he wrote books and created environments of the modern thinking service as the Pope. So, but here's the problem. He also created some of the radical foundations for philosophies of the Catholic Church, and I think that when he was choosing whether or not when they were choosing the Pope this time, I look at Pope Pius, who was the one that came both before him and after him. And if you look at the timing of it, like if you were a conspiracy theorist, you would go, well, in World War II, during the time that the most people that are ever recorded of dying in a short period of time was in World War II, almost 60 million people died in World War II. You had Pope Pius, and you bookend both the predecessor and the successor to Pope Leo VIII, and it was Pope Pius on one side. I think it was the 8th and 9th, or Pope, maybe it was the 9th and 10th, on either bookend. And so I'm a little bit fearful that we're heading into a very tumultuous time where we have, and maybe this is crazy, Matt. Maybe this is crazy. Maybe I'm just thinking too far into it. But you have the WEF saying that we have, this Yuval Noah Harari, this Jewish Kazazian Jew that talks about becoming gods, and you have Klaus Schwab and everything happening but they want to kill off 95% of our population, and that happened during a Pope Pius, and now you have him taking on Pope Leo the 14th, and who, by the way, Pope Leo the 8th, just if you look at the lineage of Pope Leos, it doesn't paint a really great picture for what's to come. This might be the end. And I don't mean the end meaning, yes, I do. I do mean the end. I do mean the end. I think that this could be the second coming. It could be something much more.
And there are signs, by the way. There are signs that the second coming is near. It's not just this. We've seen throughout historic texts, throughout the Bible, we have seen multiple different calls to suggest that we are now very close to that. It has been over 2,000 years since the time of Jesus, and now we are getting to a time that is much closer, historically speaking, to some of the worst times when God came and destroyed, and when God said, this is wrong, you're going too far, it is time to destroy. That has happened throughout history, and God has chosen to do that. And we could be at that point again, or very near it, where God is saying, now is the time to end it. Now is the time for the second coming. And I think as Christians, there's something to be a little bit hopeful for in that. There's something a little bit exciting about it, even as scary as it is, and as the finality of it. But still, I'm certainly hopeful that we get to meet God soon. And I don't want to die. None of us want to die, right? For the most part. Maybe some people do. Maybe after this pick, you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to Canada for one of the pods. I'm gonna. It's so bad. I'm so bad. Yeah, go to Canada where it's legal. No, don't do that. Don't do that. But
we should look at this. I mean, we should look at this as, is God going to be on? And I know that this is like a weird subject to have. Like, is the second coming? I mean, it's 2,000 years. Jesus was 33. It's 2025. Or is this a forced prophecy that they're going to use as an excuse to say 2,000 years later, we're going to knock off and kill off 95% of the population because it's some forced agenda by the diabolical people that are out there controlling the world now. And we just become the unintended targets or the useful idiots in this model. And should we be standing up now? So I actually believe that we should be standing up now. That if they're gonna come for us, let's find out who's running things and let's go after them. Let's target them. Let's take them out and let's create a more just society. But could it be that God is creating this? Yeah, it is. I mean, 2,000 years, 33 years old. He says to be back in a couple thousand years. I mean, if you just look at the clocks and everything else, this could be it. This could be it.
And the other thing is, if we wanted just a snapshot of how far our society has fallen, there's a Planned Parenthood video that just got released showing the depravity, the evil of where our society is currently. And that's why it was so important that today a pope was picked who is going to push values that are not only pro-life, but pro-life in a way that are also pro-family and pro-individualism to some degree, while also protecting the rights of the whole. Take a look at this clip. And when you watch it, there's a warning right now I'm going to give you. It's not visually disturbing, but what you're going to hear is extremely disturbing.
Thank you for calling Planned Parenthood. Thank you for choosing Planned Parenthood, Greater New York.
Thank you for calling Planned Parenthood, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for calling Planned Parenthood.
Hi, my name's Sophia. I'm just trying to schedule some gender-affirming care. I really just want to be able to get some testosterone to start my journey.
So we just have to start by booking your initial appointment so you can come in to see one of our providers. Are you over 18?
No, I'm 16.
You're good to be seen here then, 16 and older.
Okay, good. You're okay to do it for minors?
Yes, you can legally get hormones under 18. How old are you?
16. I know my mom has to come in with me. And does she have to be in there the whole time? Like, how does that work? Because I don't know if I'm comfortable with that.
At some point in the appointment, maybe she doesn't have to be in the examining room with you.
You said I could do it virtually?
Yeah, you could do it virtually.
So what would that look like? So I just talk to a doctor and then they'd be able to prescribe me?
Yeah, if it's virtual, you'll still meet with the doctor and then go over like all necessary information. At the end, they will then be prescribing hormones that would then be scripted out to like your local pharmacy.
I don't need any like therapy or anything first? Like you don't need any record of that?
Not that I know of.
I don't need any sort of like records of having gone to therapy or anything like that, right?
Yeah, so unless you have TRICARE insurance, it would not be required.
There's nothing that I need before, right? Like I don't need to like have records of meeting with a therapist or anything, right? Because my parents definitely aren't gonna let me do that.
No.
I just decided last week, and so I kind of want to get in as soon as possible. Do you have any appointments available soon?
Yeah, it depends on the location too, but we usually do have availability for like the next week of whenever you call.
You think that if I came in, went over everything with the doctor, and they could send the prescription that day?
Yes, I think they should be able to. The provider is going to send the prescription to your pharmacy the same day of your appointment.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So I could get the hormones the same day.
Some pharmacies do take a little bit to get it together, but yeah, if not the same day, then more than likely the very next day.
Perfect.
Thank you for calling Planned Parenthood. You have a great day.
This is sick. And the sickest part about it is that Margaret Sanger was, the mother of eugenics, that she wanted to kill off populations. And now they're just continuing to do this and to eliminate, abortions eliminate the ability to have babies. They don't give them choices. There's no one that's standing up saying, oh, by the way, you can also have adoption. That's not even on the table. They're selling baby parts. And now they're basically taking young kids that are being groomed through the public school system and through these sex camps that they're creating for 5th to 8th graders. And they're saying, yeah, come on in here. And we're not going to have you do any therapy. We're just going to have you walk in. We're going to give you hormones. And we're going to have you basically off the market and destroy your body. I mean, that's basically what they're doing, is killing people.
I want to jump through this screen and tear down every facility. I'm not going to do it because it's illegal, but that is so disturbing and disgusting to know that you don't even need, listen to the words, you don't need therapy first. There's no one who's going to try to convince you, oh, well, maybe this is the wrong path. Maybe literally cutting off your body parts and getting permanent surgery and changing the way your body works to prevent you from being able to start a family. Maybe that's not so good, actually. Maybe that will make you unhappy and destroy your life and cause you to have lots of medical problems. Perhaps we shouldn't be encouraging, especially children who aren't even capable of making decisions for themselves as to if they're allowed to drink or not until the age of 21, and yet they're allowed to make a decision. There's one very, very, very substantial clip that I saw that has gone viral. You've probably seen it, where there was an older lady, a grandma, who was asked, how do you feel about your child, your grandchild, rather, getting tattoos? And the grandmother's like, oh, well, I wouldn't want my grandchild to get tattoos. That's way too permanent. And she said that right after saying that she was totally fine with her grandchild doing permanent gender reaffirming, aka extremely invasive anti-biology surgeries and hormonal therapies. She's okay with that, but not getting tattoos. And it just shows you the level of brainwashing, because people are going against their own intrinsic value system, going against how they feel on a basic level, and just saying, okay, well, my party supports this. This is what my group is supposed to believe. Therefore, I'm going to be okay with it. And the culmination of that is Planned Parenthood is now the #1 provider. We have a graphic for that, by the way. The #1 provider of these therapies, so to speak, aka invasive, extremely toxic, evil pills that are being fed to children. I mean, how do you recover as a society when this is normalized?
Well, I don't think you can. And I think this is the biggest issue, right? I mean, isn't this and this is, by the way, them saying that they're largest, that they're the country's leading provider of hormones for young people. They're saying the quiet part out loud. They're saying that, hey, look, I know you're uncomfortable in your body. By the way, Matt, when you were in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, were you comfortable in your body?
Acne, not wondering if you're strong enough, if you're athletic enough. Do girls think I'm attractive? Not at all. No one at that age is comfortable with their body. And also, people oftentimes don't feel like they fit in. They're worried if people like them. Do I have a community? And there's no intelligence that's at a high level to back that up, or experience, because you don't have it yet. And especially if your family didn't teach you, in many cases, which happens unfortunately with a lot of people, how to have social skills that are at a high level as a kid, then you have to learn them on your own. And one of the ways people are trying to escape that social depravity, that social craziness, is by trying to transition or go to a different community. And it's a temporary solution that really ends up making their lives hard for forever. And there's no coming back. And that's what's so disturbing about this, is that these people are going to profit. If you could put that graphic book up, I want to read it, because reading this out loud just shows you the level of depravity. They're bragging about it. Specialized gender clinics are not the only institutions prescribing hormonal interventions to adolescents. According to a 2024 investigative report published in the Free Press, Planned Parenthood is the country's leading provider of hormones for young people, aka kids, aka evil. Approximately 40% of the more than 40,000 patients, think about how many that is, from whom Planned Parenthood prescribed hormones in 2023 were between the ages of 18 and 22. Disgusting. And that's, even though it's not in that specific reference, it's not underage, that is still way too young to be making that decision, in my opinion. Offer hormones starting at age 18 with parental approval. In recent years, Planned Parenthood and the clinics have adopted an expedited access policy on informed consent basis. So basically what that means is, and we can take the graphic off now, that's enough. What that means is you don't even need your parents to say yes. As we heard in that video, you can call, you're 16, hey, I want to get hormones. Okay, you don't need therapy. Okay, your parents don't even have to be there. Come on in, here's your therapy. You don't even have to tell them. Here's your drugs, behind the scenes. Parents, oh, you're not okay with your child literally transitioning and destroying their lives and not being capable of ever achieving happiness through a family? Okay, sorry, too late, already happened. That's the situation.
All right, but Matt, let's look at this if we can, because they absolutely know. There's an HHS report, we should put this up, that exposed the risk of youth gender treatments, infertility, sterility, sexual dysfunction, impaired bone density, accrual, adverse cognitive impacts, cardiovascular disease, metabolic disorders, psychiatric disorders, surgical complications, and regret. And it goes further to say that they've looked into, Matt, let's go ahead and put the second one up, despite the increased pressure to promote these drastic medical interventions on our nation's youth, the review makes clear the science and evidence do not support their use, and the risk cannot be ignored. So they're telling us what's happening and telling us that you shouldn't be doing this, that it's terrorizing our kids, that you're literally genociding children. And you're doing it under the guise of, well, we don't want them to commit suicide. You're killing them. You're literally taking away their ability to have a fulfilling life by making them question where they are. And then on top of that, then just throwing them to the wolves. And this is the evil. This is why we're not, this has nothing to do, this has zero to do with the fact that we're like, oh, you're anti-transgender. No, I'm not. I think kids, look, there's
Yes,
going
you
to be.
are.
I'm really not.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not.
I mean, it's
look,
okay. It's okay to be. It's okay if you want to be.
I don't care if you're a pink elephant. I don't think it's real. It's not real. I'm not going to call a dude a chick. I'm not. You can lie to yourself. You can walk around in high heels. You can do all that stuff. It still swings, right? You're still a man.
You're not
right?
competing with my daughter. You're not changing in the locker room with them. Period. Yeah, that's my stance on it.
And if you're going to say that it was a mental disorder, because it is, and that gender dysphoria, and now the new, these new people, again, this gets to where the Pope is saying, hey, listen, I'm just going to go along with it to get along. Or the same thing that the Pope did, Pope Pius did in World War II, right? Who spent almost 20 years as the Pope, or a little over 20 years, and the same thing that he did. He did the same thing, right? He just said, hey, look, we're just going to get along. 58 million people died in World War II. So, we're dealing with a massive issue that we have in our country. And if you want to play dress up and you're an adult, great. But don't let them groom children. And by the way, if we can drop bombs on people and decide that we can support a war, we certainly today can look at what's happening in our society and say, look, if force is what it takes in order to reset our cognitive ability to see reason, if force is what it's going to take, then I think we need to push towards force. Period.
I mean, at some point you have to say, we're not going to let our society fall into their hands. Imagine if what if we decide to do transgender therapy in order to stop kids from feeling depressed? Imagine if we had this plan. Why don't we start making church a normalized part of life? Why don't we start teaching kids about God at school? Why don't we start making it so that everyone understands there's a higher purpose and you are here for a reason? That right there is the way to cure depression, not going on drugs and all of these weird misdiagnoses that allow Big Pharma to make a lot of money off of kids and adults likewise who are misdiagnosed with certain mental illnesses or disorders or depression or things like that. That's extremely common. The other thing is, why don't we structure our society in a way where we're not so focused on our phones? Why don't we start going outside more, enjoy nature, spend time with each other? And I can't, I'm obviously not a perfect example because I probably spend too much time on my phone, but I try every single day to spend important quality time with my family, and I want to go and you too, Joe. I want to have a community. I want to be part of that. And I'm trying to get closer to that the older I get. And if we're not all striving for that, there's going to be high rates of depression. And the answer is not to change your gender as a child. The answer is to get closer to it and to get closer to God. It's that simple.
Yeah. So look, I'm more concerned for you than I am for myself, right? Because you're decades behind me, right? And so you have young children, 3 young girls that you're going to have to decide what school they go to, and you're going to have to watch with a fine-tooth comb everything that goes on as far as how they teach your children, and show up at the school and make sure there's no pride flags hanging. I mean, people are running away from the traditional aspects of what we have in education because, in large part, it's absolutely evil. But the other part of this is that we don't have, Matt, we lack courage. We lack basic courage to talk about what's right. And somebody just asked a question, like, is the new Pope, just tell me, is the new Pope good or is he bad?
Bad. Bad. Very bad. It's over. It's over.
Matt, come on now.
We're screwed. It's over. There's no hope. It's done. Very bad.
There is
okay.
hope.
Okay, Joe will give you the hope. Okay, go to Joe for the hope. Go to me for the cynicism.
But there's a healthy dose of skepticism that you should have, right? And I just drew the conclusion to Leo the VIII, who was he was a well-known pope. He was the longest pope to serve, but he was also one of the most destructive in shaping kind of the history of the 20th century, right? Coming into the 20th century, the Industrial Revolution, the beginning of having airplanes, the first time we ever had a conversation that was documented of aliens being something that they recorded in U.S. history. So I mean, we which happened in 1897. So we have some things that we have to work through in figuring out whether or not this pope is acceptable to lead. But I would challenge something else, Matt. If the pope turns out to be a bad guy, then the people have to rise up and meet the challenge. And that might be what this whole thing's about, is are we willing to stand up? Or are we just fair weather? Are we just going to do what we did in 2020 and stand up for, a pandemic that we knew was BS and not do anything else? I mean, is that it? Are we finished? Is this it?
He's a huge proponent of Venezuelan migrants coming over. He was raised in a community in Chicago where he was surrounded constantly by illegal immigrants, and those were people who he grew and formed relationships with. Obviously, he is going to be extremely pro that. That's intrinsically part of his value system. He's going to push back against Trump, as he's already been doing. He wants to use his platform as the Pope to be a political advocate for wokeness to a large degree. Now, it doesn't mean in every capacity we're going to get the traditional and positive anti-abortion stance. We're going to get some of the values when it comes to trying to push family values and things like that. We'll get some of that. But that will be, unfortunately, the lesser of the two, because when he's saying gay marriage should be not only legalized, but should be encouraged, and that's the distinction I make. Okay, legalized, that's one thing, that's the government. Okay, fine, whatever. Encouraged? No, you should be encouraged to start a family. You should be encouraged to be with a woman as God intended us to be. That's what you should be encouraged for. So it's just, I see what's coming. He's going to basically use this platform as a bludgeon against the values that need to go forward. And it's very, very, very sad to see. And he's going to be effective at it because he speaks perfect English and understands our culture. That's what's bad.
It's hard to argue with you. There are times that Matt is actually right. And,
every time, always. I wish I wasn't. In this case, I hope I'm wrong. Please let me be wrong. Imagine the Pope comes out and it's just, holds up the cross and it's just like says a bunch of base things. Like that. How cool? How awesome would that be? Maybe he'll shock us all and have a 180 and do it right. I'm hoping. Please, I really want that to happen.
When Pope John Paul took over from Pope John Paul, and it was the first, he died suddenly after going into office. And they're like, oh, well, we actually wanted the other Pope John that was behind him. That was the anomaly that happened during the 90s, right? So I look at this a little differently, that there might be something that comes after. There might be something we're not seeing or missing. But this also might be an indication that people, both Catholic and non-Catholic that are Christian, stand up and reject these radical ideologies. But I feel as if we're not doing enough in our own society. We're not taking chess pieces off the table. We're not allowing us to get to a place where we have free and fair elections. We're not, pushing and demanding that we get the Epstein files. We're not doing the basic things that he has walked past historically. And even if we start talking about what they're doing in the communities related to violence in Democrat-controlled environments, how does he recognize on one side that he wants to be for social justice and say all these crazy things, while not going and looking at the problem, which is a rotted judiciary that is in large part a for-profit prison system that is throwing many Black and brown kids into a place where they become dollar signs for those people that are holding them accountable and putting them in jail to begin with. So, this is the stupid that I come up against, not just in the papacy that we're talking about now, but across the board. It's not hard to fix the system. Stop being assholes and stop being driven by this do as I say, not as I do mentality, and you'll have a better outcome, right? I mean, to quit the idea of having food deserts and opportunity deserts and education deserts in inner cities that are run by crazy leftists, and recognize that that's a problem and not promote it. And I think we'll have a better outcome. I really do.
Yeah, that's the hopeful way to look at it. And certainly the Catholic Church is a place where people can come and get closer to God. The Catholic Church is a bastion of Christianity. It's an important part of American life. It's an important part of history. And so as that, it should be respected. And no matter who the Pope is, it doesn't mean Catholicism as a whole needs to be talked at or looked down at or anything like that. So I think that's another important factor, is that we're going to continue looking at this with respect. At least I am. I think most people will. But at the same time, we do have to push back, and we do have to stand up, like Joe said, as people, as citizens, to say, hey, here's where we draw the line. We're not going to follow you off the cliff. If you say you think it's a good idea for every one of the 7 billion other people who want to come here, and we know for a fact that's going to not only hurt us, but it will hurt other countries as well, we're not going to approve of it or be okay with it or allow you to influence people without at least pushing back on it. That's where I stand.
Well, I'm going to tell you, by the way, Blasian Babies 2020 said that's a good nickname for the new Pope. Old one was Woke Pope. New one is MS-13 Pope, and gifted 10 subscriptions to Untamed Nations.
Wow. That's amazing. Right now, there's someone who's gifting memberships. I want to give a huge shout out and a lot of love. That is really, really special. That is awesome to see. Thank you so much. And by the way, this is a huge show again today. Our last show from yesterday, now at 120,000 views. This is the fastest growing show by far on the internet right now, the fastest growing on Rumble. It's not even close. Everyone is coming and joining in, because here is the only place where we are able, through our incredible team back there and through Joe and I, to bring you the truth, unfiltered, real, raw opinions, anger, emotion. We actually care, and we want to bring that to you every single day at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So come and join our community, join the brotherhood, be part of this. And for you to be gifting everyone those memberships it's a special thing. You're awesome. We love you. Thank you very much.
All right, so let's take a commercial break before we actually go to what's about to happen, because we're going to talk about probably one of the most evil people in the world, who is projecting that someone else is evil and killing poor people, when in actuality, I've been on the ground, Matt. I've been on the ground watching what this diabolical individual has done to sterilize entire communities in other countries. It's unbelievable. Well, let's take a commercial break, and then we'll be right back.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Gabe! Dude, Gabe, something's in the dumpster.
Whoa, what is that for?
Something's in the dumpster, man.
Well, let's use the burner. We don't want to wake the neighbors. Freeze! Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
If you're looking for a less than lethal option for self-defense or keeping pests out of your dumpster, then check out Byrna at DCF Guns. Visit us at our 3 locations in Castle Rock or Colorado Springs, or visit us online at dcfguns.com.
Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter.
It was around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I received an email from PayPal. It showed in this email that there was a debit in my PayPal account that was going to be taken out. I don't remember following the link in the email even. I think I went straight to the PayPal account, and that pending debit was there. And it was for about $1,000, I believe, so it was a lot of money. So I called the phone number on that email. And it kind of, the way this guy was talking, I didn't even question what he was saying. And I've worked with computers for the past 40 years. And he just kept convincing me, and he was a legitimate person that was going to fix my computer, and I had faith in him that he was doing his job. I got in the car and I drove, and I was just thinking, this isn't right. I've given this guy enough money to buy like 2 computers. So I came home and I just thought about it some more, and I called my wife had come home. I was by myself. I had to fix the computer, fix my phone, change my bank accounts, change all of my passwords. I mean, I went through like 2 weeks of going through everything I owned, changing everything that I had because of this guy calling me for those 2 or 3 hours. How did I fall for this? And it was a very traumatic experience. I know I wasn't the only one out there that had fallen for this. Listen to yourself and think about it before you do anything, and don't just trust somebody, even though it's so believable somehow. If you feel comfortable getting a software to help you to find out, who might be, that actually track these scams, do it. I mean, if they feel that's something important to you, do it.
All right, Matt, you ready for this?
I'm always ready. I was born ready.
What do you think of Bill Gates?
Bill Gates is one of the most smug, evil human beings, if we even want to call him that, to ever walk the face of the planet. He is someone who has destroyed so many communities, pretends like he's virtuous and is trying to help, when in reality, he has ulterior motives to take down the population, first of all, and second of all, to push an ideology of wokeness that will be intrinsically, he's already played a big role in it with George Soros, but he wants to take over everything in a very negative way. It's one of the most evil people to ever walk the planet. And Joe and I were talking during the break. Joe says he hates Bill Gates even more than me, which I don't know how it's possible, but I actually kind of believe him. Joe, what did Bill Gates do recently?
Well, he's been doing it over the last 30 years. So what he did is, through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which he's shutting down, by the way. He's shutting it down, which aligns with all the things that are happening right now. Klaus Schwab stepping down. But through this, he funded vaccine programs over in Africa and many parts of the poorest parts of Asia, like India, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand. But in Africa specifically, in West and East Africa, he would come in and he would distribute these vaccines under the guise of, hey, we're going to get rid of diseases. Now, many of the people there that took these shots figured that, hey, and they were distributed, by the way, by organizations like Doctors Without Borders, which is heavily infiltrated by the CIA. And you'd go, Joe, how do you know that? Because I was there. But I remember going into a village, Matt, and the entire village had been sterilized by the Gates Foundation. Wow. The entire village. Not one man, woman, or child would have the ability as they grew up to have a baby at all. And where the average lifespan is decades lower than it is here in the United States, You talk about a decline. You're literally killing off an entire tribe of people, an entire community. And he did that. And you know how many? Do you know how many times that he's been held accountable for that? Never.
Let me guess.
Because
0.
how over there do those people have the opportunity to stand up for themselves? You walk in to talk to a lawyer, the lawyer goes to the country, and the prime minister goes, I just got $200,000 satchel of cash or $2 million satchel of cash. Yeah, okay, we'll look into it. Go over here. Yeah, we looked into it. Kind of like the election systems in the United States. Same thing. They did everything that they could in order to blindside. And the more that he did it over in Africa, it started to come out. But then have you heard about it now? We don't hear about it. You want to know why you don't hear about it? Because these diabolical pieces of trash get away with it. And now he's saying, I'm going to give away my $200 billion, which is another signal for, I'm going to give $20 billion to George Soros and Alex Soros. I'm going to give another $40 billion to the World Economic Forum. I'm going to give $30 billion to all these radical organizations that look to create chaos in our communities. So he's going to give away $200 billion, keep 1% for himself, and then push towards the absolute destruction of the world. And that's who these people are. On their way out, they're like, if I'm leaving, I'm a godless figure. I'm just going to take everybody with me.
Where does Bill Gates believe he goes after he dies? Nowhere. He has no consequences that he fears. He doesn't understand that he is going to have to face the devil directly upon death. That is something that he is going to be very unfortunate when it comes to his experience with. So that's what's coming for him. That is what's next for Bill Gates. And he, throughout his life, has continued to be closer to evil than almost anyone else. The reason why Melinda Gates left him was because of his ties to Epstein. He had a lot of phone calls with Epstein, was believed to have secretly gone to Epstein Island, then covered up the records so no one can see or prove that he went there. His relationship also included funding Jeffrey, allegedly, and other very, very, very nefarious things involving the trafficking and the hurting of young children. What Bill Gates has done inside his mansions, on his vacation islands, is something that I think most people couldn't even comprehend because of how evil it is. Melinda Gates, to stay with him for as long as she did, is actually kind of crazy. And she's very liberal, by the way. And so she still, despite that, is pushing back against it because there is evil and there is good. And regardless of if you're liberal or not, for the most part, with the exceptions of the radicals on the left, you can see that distinction and go away from it. And so that's a very important factor when it comes to Bill Gates. We know how evil he is based on his actions outside of his philanthropy. So what is his money going to be used for? I agree. It's going to go to Soros's. It's going to go to bad judges and political parties. It's going to be very destructive and damaging to society. It's not going to help. It's going to hurt us significantly. He should have never been allowed to get that much wealth, in my opinion.
So, I don't know if I believe that. But I mean, listen, I think that if you make your wealth, you make your wealth, right?
Well, I mean, we shouldn't be using his products, is what I mean. I don't mean he literally should be stopped by the government from making money. I mean, we shouldn't have allowed him to get that much wealth by using those products over the competitors.
So let me just say something else about Gates that most people don't know. He also was married to Melinda Gates, and 2 weeks out of the month or of the year, every year, he would go on a sexcapade with his ex-girlfriend from high school or from college, right? And she put up with this for over 20 years. So he would disappear and go have sex with his ex-fling, and that was a part of their arrangement when they got married, is that he would have this ability to go sleep with this other person. I mean, which makes absolutely no sense to me. But what also doesn't make sense to me is the fact that we give people like him a free pass because he has money. So like, I want to get close to him, and his connections to Epstein are well regarded. Which leads me to the next thing, which is Kash Patel. Matt just testified on the Hill today, and he perjured himself.
He did.
I know he perjured himself because I've talked to people that directly have had conversations with Kash Patel, and he lied. I mean, he literally lied on the Hill and perjured himself, which, prior to today, I think the guy probably he spends time, he's not my pick. I'm wholly disappointed in Kash Patel. Kash Patel is all about Kash Patel, right? Period. But he got an opportunity. And do you want to play this thing about Bill Gates? Do you want to play that video real quick of him talking and then get into Kash Patel in relation to the 1 degree of separation for Epstein?
Play the Bill Gates video, because this, and when you watch it, listen to his tone, the condescending, smug tone where he thinks, oh, I'm better than you. I'm going to use this money because it's mine and I'm going to use it for these purposes. Just listen to the tone.
The decision is, in a sense, kind of a personal thing that I think over the next 20 years, this amazing organization with amazing partnerships, I want to maximize what they can do. And I have no doubt there will be rich people in the future. Even today, there's many people richer than I am. And they will understand 21 years from now what's gone on with AI and geopolitics, which diseases remain. And I think we can get, the majority of our goals, done in the next 20 years by doubling down with this spend down approach.
Notice he said 21 years specifically. That's a random number to choose, and obviously there's something coming within that exact time frame that is going to be bad unless Jesus comes back and does that before we reach that point. But that's where I think we should all be especially worried, is what is his plan for the next 21 years? He clearly has a plan, and it's clearly distinguished by that exact number.
Well, there's no question that they have a plan. The wealthiest, the Rockefellers, the people in these mobs, these cartels, they have a plan, and they're following that plan to the T. And the only thing, by the way, that will disrupt that will be people like us that stand up and create our own fraternity, which is why we push so hard to get people to realize that at some point you have to fight for something. You have to fight for something. But
Yeah.
that leads back to Epstein. I mean, the guy that literally, it was well over a decade ago, Matt. It was well over a decade ago. I mean, this guy was a known pedophile, was still out jet setting, and Kash Patel was asked a simple question: do you think that Epstein killed himself? And on top of that, when are we going to get the Epstein files? Remember, they already said that they already gave them to us, right?
The only people who have the Epstein files are the people who are not willing to release them in full. We've seen parts of it, but yeah, I don't think we're going to get the full Epstein files from this administration, unfortunately. And yeah, the clip. So we can listen to the clip of Kash Patel, and in this clip, he's clearly lying. He knows that's not true, and yet he says it anyway.
Person with a brain and a beating heart.
Yes, sir.
Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself, or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When you think you'll have it done, Cash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Like before I die?
Senator, we've been working on that, and we're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant for production of the public, such as CSAM.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Reid.
Thank you very much, Mr.
The Kash Patel of old and the Kash Patel of new. I said this earlier, that Washington is being the controlled opposition and kind of moving towards what they're doing in our country to the people in this country. It's new faces, same old playbook. And what they're doing right now to dishonor the American people, I think it's abhorrent. It's absolutely abhorrent.
Well, I'm going to give you, Joe, $100 million in the near future, which means never, which is what he's referring to when he says he's looking into it. He says the near future in quotes. He's not doing it. That means he's not doing it in the near future. How about tomorrow? How about today? How about in the near next 5 minutes? You go ahead and release the files. What are you waiting for? Okay, you redact the names of the victims. And even if the victims' names aren't redacted, it's still more important that this gets released than anything else. Especially the victims who are no longer with us because they were victimized in such a cruel capacity that their lives were taken from them. So how can he sit there and say that? And I God bless Mr. Kennedy, who's willing to call him out on it before I die. That's a good question. And the answer is, unfortunately, that it will be before he dies. It won't happen rather before he dies, most likely.
Yeah, no, it won't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he basically, that was a tell, I think, on his part. We've faced the last 4 years. We got a couple of other things we want to knock out. You think Joe Biden is senile?
Not at all. He's the most competent person in the country right now. In fact, I wish he was president instead because he did such a good job the first time. It would be nice to have him in office right now.
Well, I want to show you that he looked like he was the sharpest guy in the world too when he was on a show with Jill Biden on The View. He's starting to make his rounds. I want you to check this out. Tell me what you think about this, Matt.
Yeah. Mr. President, since you left office, there have been a number of books that have come out, deeply sourced from Democratic sources, that claim in your final year there was a dramatic decline in your cognitive abilities. In the final year of your presidency, what is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that. Number one. Number two, think of what we were left with. We were left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started. Not since the Civil War. We had a circumstance where we were in a position that the pandemic, because of the incompetence of the last outfit, end up over 1 million people dying. 1 million people dying. And we're also in a situation where we found ourselves unable to deal with a lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into in the interest of time. And so we went to work, and we got it done. And one of the things and
Alyssa, one of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us, and they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. I mean, he'd get up, he'd put in a full day, and then at night I'd be in bed, reading my book, and he was still on the phone, reading his briefings, working with staff. I mean, it was nonstop. It's the White House, being president is not like a job. It's a lifestyle. It's a life that you live. You live it 24 hours a day. That phone can ring at 11 o'clock at night or 2 in the morning. It's constant. You never leave it. And Joe worked really hard. I think he was a great president. And if you look at things today, give me Joe Biden anytime.
That's worth the invitation to come to the show.
When he started talking to him, Joe, okay, I'm gonna take over now. Yeah, press the button. I mean, like what? And she even, there were Freudian slip there. She was describing the presidency as if it was her that was president because she was the one who was actually doing it in some capacity. It's why she tried to prop him up as a stick figure to run again because she wanted to have that power once again. There's also like 400, 500 people who are on your staff, basically servants that will cook for you, do all the things for you. It's one of the most luxurious jobs on the planet where everything's taken care of. So from that standpoint, she wanted to continue enjoying it. And he obviously was at the end of the rope and couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, it's gotten to the place where, what's up is down and down is up, but there's no question that he was mentally incapacitated. Even while he's talking there and he's, folding his arms and showing you all the indications that he's trying to keep himself very focused on these interviews, but he's obviously not there. And when you actually pardon using auto pen. I'd like to see President Trump actually challenge every one of those pardons and throw those pieces of trash in jail like Fauci. But pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, and it's certainly that's true. And not only so he's incompetent. On top of that, he has no ability whatsoever to govern at his current state, and yet he was supposed to be leading the most powerful country on earth. I mean, it's just. And then Kamala Harris was somehow even worse than him. And that's the state of our politics. And if the immigration numbers keep up with the way they are, with 60 to 70% of people who come from other countries voting for Democrats, it'll be impossible for us to ever have a Republican elected again at some point. Just like it is right now with the conclave, with the Pope, where it's almost impossible for us to have a conservative. That's the state right now. That's where we're at.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
It is.
Pretty crazy. But we're kind of at the end of the show, and President Trump did also announce that he signed a massive trade agreement with the UK. And then President Trump said something that I think everyone should be paying attention to, Matt. Play it.
It's the biggest bill of its kind ever in the history of this country. And Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune have done an incredible job. I mean, I'll let you know we have to get a vote, but we have a lot of support for that bill. And if that happens on top of all of these trade deals that we're doing, this country will hit a point that you better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers that nobody's ever seen before. That's a very important element of all of this. If we get that. If you don't, and the Democrats are fighting it only because they want to fight. They have Trump derangement syndrome. If it was somebody else, they wouldn't fight. If you had a normal person, if you had some stiff sitting behind you, they'd be fine. But they have Trump derangement syndrome. Senator Schumer's become a Palestinian. Welcome. I don't know when they're going to give him the ceremony, whatever the ceremony may be. But it's terrible what's happened to the Democrats. So very, very important element of everything, of what we're doing.
Who added the laughing soundtrack to that? That wasn't us. That wasn't Joe or I, by the way. I don't know. There was literally a laughing soundtrack on the clip.
Yeah. Was it a laughing soundtrack, or was it people that were right beside him that were laughing about it?
Didn't seem like it was coming from beside him. I don't know. I couldn't really tell. It sounded like that was what the clip was from, someone who's recording it and providing live commentary while they were recording it.
Yeah, probably. More than likely. All right. Well, I'm headed back. I'll be back in the studio tomorrow. Matt, what interview are we having tomorrow?
This interview tomorrow is going to change the entire landscape of judgeness. If we can, I'm even willing to go that far and say this will undoubtedly change everything regarding the Tina Peters case. It will show how corrupt our judges have gotten nationally, and it will hopefully have a big impact on changing the way that we look at this. And I think it's look, you have to tune in tomorrow. The interview we have, I think we're allowed to say who it is, right, Joe? Are we allowed to say who it is?
No, absolutely not. I'll just say this. The judge in the case for Tina Peters is Matthew Barrett. And he has a long history of both deviancy and of indecency to how he's treated people. He has bullied, intimidated. You could call him the cartel DA, because that's really what he is. And then as we started digging into, we started digging into this judge, we basically uncovered the bodies. And in that, we got an opportunity to talk to someone who he sent to prison. But before he sent this person to prison, he showed up on the front doorsteps and threatened to take their children away, if this person's spouse decided to testify. This is such a demonic case that we had to go through, and we had to go through and make sure that all the things that were being said to us, that we could validate it. And we were able to validate every bit of it. Matthew Barrett is probably one of the worst human beings known to man. He's the one that sentenced Tina Peters to 9 years in prison. But what he had done to other people and destroying people's lives, and did so with a smile on his face, leads you to believe that this man needs to go to prison for the rest of his life. And frankly, that would be too good for him. So tomorrow is going to be huge. It's going to be, we're going to let the story be told. And if you're looking for real documented, we made sure she went in this. She's in the studio. I made sure that I came back for this specifically. So tune in. Make sure you share it. Make sure you're here tomorrow. It will be the biggest story that we have ever told. That's not true. Coomer was probably the biggest story. But this is the biggest story about a person that's a judge that aligns with how bad the judges are, but just how bad people can be.
Absolutely. It's going to be something that you can't miss. You have to be here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. The show is growing massively. Thank you to everyone who's supporting. Thank you as well to Blasian children who has been gifting, or Blasian babies rather, who has been gifting a lot of subscriptions and has been supporting. So we appreciate everyone, all of the love. Come join our community. Get a hat, get a battle axe, be part of it. We need everyone together. And if we're strong, we may be able to save our country and therefore the world. And I don't say that lightly. It's true. Would you like to pray us out, Joe?
Yeah, I'll pray us out. And by the way, on just a little housekeeping, when we talk about what we're growing, one of the things that Matt and I have been doing is trying to figure out how we center things onto Rumble, right? But let me just tell you the growth that we're experiencing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio. We're getting calls from radio stations. We're getting calls from, and we've had people say, Joe, you know, you're Matt and you are from two different generations. And I'm like, listen, this is the greatest thing in the world because you get to get perspective and we get to reach people of different generations. The dynamic is absolutely incredible because we can have different perspectives. We can have respect for those perspectives and still have the ability to have conversations about current events, things that are happening in the community. And have alignment. So pretty amazing stuff. But on your way out, hit the thumbs up button if you're on Rumble. If you're on YouTube, haven't been kicked off there yet, go ahead and share that page, share the things that we're doing, and make sure you stay tuned in because we're here every single day, 5 days a week, during the week, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. Mountain time. All right, should we pray?
Sure.
Father God, thank you for the ability to just reach out into our community and have, just tough conversations, Father. I want to say thank you for the Pope. Thank you for having us be born at a time such as this. And we know that there are more surprises to come. But Father, thank you for giving us the opportunity to stand and speak. And after speaking, acting, and building a fraternity together so we can restore you to our community and to our country and to the world. Father, we are grateful for the leadership that President Trump has taken over in our country. We're grateful for the progress that we've made over the last 4 months in our country to reverse some of the harm that's been done to our communities over the last 4 years. And Father, we're grateful for the ability that we have to stand up against the evil that is in front of us. And yet, Father, we still have a little bit of trepidation. We have a whole lot of just anxiety over where and what direction we're going to go. So Father, I ask you to give us the strength that we may press forward through it, that we may not become discouraged, that we may hold on to the path that you have put in front of us, and that we may execute against that path to make sure we stand up, we speak truth, and then we act in that truth. Father, I would just ask a special blessing over Tina Peters, that you would lift the burdens off her shoulder, keep her protected, and that she may be freed from the prison and the bondage which she's been placed. And that truth may prevail, and those that have done harm to Tina may face the consequences both in this life and the next. Father, I ask that you bless the people that are going to be coming into the studio, that they may have health, that they may be protected, and that their story be widely told, and that the people responsible for the bad things that have happened to them for so long can be held accountable, and that Judge Barrett can absolutely be held to an account for all of the bad and evil things he has done to so many people, and that his deviancy and his ability to hurt people can come to an end. Father, I ask you that you bless us with the ability to be gracious with each other, set aside petty differences, and always choose what is right. I ask these things humbly in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thumbs up on the way out. We pray our way out every single time. Did you pray yesterday? You better have prayed yesterday. Did you pray yesterday?
Did. Yes.
Awesome. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Matt, I'll see you in the morning.
I will see you in the morning, and stay on for a little bit after, because I have something important to talk about. So, and you'll everyone else will know soon, but stay tuned for that.
All right. God bless you.